Cameras are flashing. Reporters are ready with their pens. Everyone is waiting for the president of Burkina Faso, Ibrahim Traoré, to speak. But suddenly an American journalist stands up. He is not here to be friendly. He is here to ask a hard question, a question that could embarrass the president in front of the whole world. What happens next is something nobody expects. The answer from President Traoré is so powerful, so wise that it shocks everyone. This is not just a story about a press conference. This is a story about respect, about Africa, and about how words can change everything. The day is hot. The city is buzzing. Inside the government building, the air is thick with tension. President Traoré walks in, calm and confident. He knows the world is watching. Journalists fire questions about jobs, about schools, about safety. Traoré answers fast, clear, no fear. He doesn't dodge. He doesn't hide. The room starts to respect him. But then, the American journalist stands up. He's tall, serious, and his voice cuts through the noise. Mr. President, people in America and Europe say you are not a real leader. They say you do not allow freedom. They say you are taking your country backwards. What do you say to people who think you are not good enough to lead? Silence. The whole room freezes. This is the moment. Will Traoré get angry? Will he stumble? No, he smiles, calm, strong. He looks the journalist in the eye and says, "Let me tell you a story. In my village, we say, the lion does not turn around when a small dog barks." The room is stunned. The journalist blinks. Traoré keeps going. "You come from far away. You have your own ideas. But do you know my people? Do you know our history? Do you know our dreams? You talk about freedom. But do you know what freedom means to us?" He doesn't stop. He looks at everyone. "In your country, you have your way. In my country, we have our way. We have suffered. We have fought. We have survived. We are not perfect, but we are proud. We are not rich, but we are strong. We do not need others to tell us who we are." The room is still. The American journalist sits down out of words. Traoré stands tall. "I'm not here to make the West happy. I am here to serve my people. As long as my people believe in me, I will stand tall like the big baobab tree. The wind can blow, but I will not fall." Applause explodes. First a few, then everyone. The sound fills the room. Even the foreign journalists clap. The American journalist looks shocked. He did not expect this. He did not expect this strength. The story spreads like wildfire. People talk about it in the streets, in markets, in taxis. They share it on their phones. They tell their families. In villages and cities, people feel proud. They say, "This is our president. This is our Africa." But let's go back and see what really happened in that room moment by moment. The American journalist named Mark had been planning his question for days. He had read reports, watched videos, and talked to other journalists. He wanted to make a big impact. He wanted to show the world that he could ask the hardest question. He watched President Traoré carefully. He saw how the president answered every question with confidence. Mark thought, "I will be the one to make him nervous." But President Traoré was not nervous. He had grown up in a small village where every day was a test. He had learned to listen before he spoke. He had learned to respect his elders, to help his neighbors, and to never give up. When he became president, he promised to always speak the truth even when it was hard. He knew that people would judge him. He knew that some would try to make him look weak. But he also knew that his strength came from his people. As Mark stood up, the other journalists watched closely. Some of them had tried to ask tough questions before, but none had been as direct as Mark. The room felt colder. The cameras zoomed in. Mark's voice was loud and clear. "Mr. President, people in the West say you are not democratic. They say you silence your critics. They say you are not fit to lead. What do you say to them?" President Traoré did not rush. He took a deep breath. He looked at Mark, then at the other journalists, then at his own people sitting in the back of the room. He remembered his mother's words, "When you speak, speak with your heart." He began with the story of the lion and the small dog. Some people smiled, some looked confused, but everyone listened. He spoke about his country's history. He talked about the time when Burkina Faso was called up a volta, when the people had no voice, when outsiders made all the decisions. He talked about the struggle for independence, about the leaders who fought and died for freedom. He talked about the years of poverty, the years of hope, the years of rebuilding. He said, "We have made mistakes. We have learned. We are still learning, but we are moving forward step by step." He looked at Mark and said, "You ask about freedom. Let me tell you what freedom means here. Freedom is a mother who can send her child to school. Freedom is a farmer who can sell his crops at a fair price. Freedom is a young girl who can dream of being a doctor, a teacher, or even a president. Freedom is not just words, it is life." The room was quiet. Mark was writing quickly, trying to keep up. President Traoré continued, "You say I silence my critics, but every day I listen to my people. I walk in the markets. I visit the villages. I hear their problems. I hear their hopes. I do not have all the answers, but I am here. I am listening. I am working." He told a story about a young boy he met in a village. The boy had lost his parents but still went to school every day. He wanted to be a teacher. President Traoré said, "That boy is the future of Burkina Faso. He is why I do this job. Not for power, not for money, but for the children who believe in a better tomorrow." Mark looked up. He was surprised. He had expected anger, maybe even a fight. But what he saw was something different. He saw a leader who cared. He saw a leader who was honest. He saw a leader who was not afraid. President Traoré finished his answer. "You ask if I am fit to lead. I say, let my people decide. Let them judge me by my actions, not by rumors. I am not perfect, but I am trying. Every day I am trying." The applause was loud. People stood up. Some had tears in their eyes. Even Mark felt something change inside him. He realized that sometimes the hardest questions do not need the hardest answers. Sometimes the truth is enough. After the press conference, Mark walked outside. The sun was still hot. The city was still busy. But something felt different. He saw children playing in the street. He saw women selling fruit in the market. He saw men fixing cars, laughing and talking. He realized that Burkina Faso was not just a country on a map. It was a place full of life, full of hope, full of stories. Mark thought about his own country. He thought about the things he took for granted. He thought about the power of words, the power of respect, the power of listening. He decided to write his story differently. He wrote about the president's answer. He wrote about the pride of the people. He wrote about the lesson he had learned. Back in the government building, President Traoré met with his advisors. They told him that his answer was already being shared on the radio, on TV, and on the internet. People were talking about it everywhere. Some people agreed with him. Some did not. But everyone was listening. In the villages, old men sat under the trees and told the story to the children. They said, "This is how a leader should speak. With courage, with respect, with wisdom." In the cities, young people shared the story on their phones. They said, "This is our president. He speaks for us." The story did not end there. A few days later, President Traoré visited a school. The children stood up and clapped. One girl asked, "Mr. President, why did you not get angry at the journalist?" He smiled and said, "Because anger does not build. Only wisdom builds. Only respect builds. If I get angry, I lose. If I speak with wisdom, we all win." The girl smiled. She told her friends, "I want to be wise like the president." The teachers smiled too. They knew that the story would stay with the children for a long time. In another part of the city, a group of young men talked about the press conference. One said, "Did you see how the president answered? He did not shout. He did not run away. He stood his ground." Another said, "That is how we should be, proud, calm, strong." The story even reached other countries. In Ghana, in Nigeria, in Senegal, people talked about the president's answer. They said, "Africa is changing. Our leaders are changing. We are not afraid anymore." Mark, the American journalist, went back to his hotel. He called his editor and said, "I have a new story. It is not what I expected. It is better." His editor was surprised. He said, "Did the president get angry?" Mark said, "No, he was wise. He was strong. He taught me something." That night, Mark could not sleep. He thought about the lion and the small dog. He thought about the baobab tree. He thought about the children in the school. He realized that sometimes the best stories are the ones that surprise us, the ones that teach us, the ones that make us see the world in a new way. The next morning, Mark walked through the city. He saw people smiling. He saw people working. He saw people living their lives. He felt respect for them. He felt respect for the president. He felt respect for Africa. President Traoré continued his work. He met with farmers, with teachers, with doctors. He listened to their problems. He tried to find solutions. He knew that his job was not easy. He knew that people would always judge him. But he also knew that he had the support of his people. The story of the press conference became a legend. It was told in homes, in schools, in markets. It was a story about respect, about wisdom, about the power of words. It was a story that inspired people to stand tall, to be proud, to never let others define them. And so, the next time someone tries to make you feel small, remember this story. Remember President Traoré. Remember the lion. Remember the baobab tree. Remember that true strength comes from inside. Sometimes the best answer is not to fight, but to stand tall and speak with wisdom. This is the spirit of Africa. This is the spirit of Burkina Faso. And this is a story that will never be forgotten. And that is the story of how President Ibrahim Traoré turned a tough question into a lesson for the whole world. If you enjoyed this story, if you felt inspired, or if you learned something new about Africa and its leaders, don't forget to support this channel. Hit the subscribe button right now so you never miss another powerful African tale. Share this video with your friends and family, and let's keep these stories alive together. Your support helps us bring more true stories, more wisdom and more pride from Africa to the world. Thank you for watching, and remember, stand tall, speak with wisdom, and always be proud of who you are. See you in the next story.